The diamond. Between two worlds. The night I accused the only person who had ever treated me like a human being was the night I realized money had made me blind. If you've ever trusted someone completely and then doubted them, even for a second, you'll understand why this story has never really left me. It was October 12th, 2018, around 4:20 in the afternoon, when the rain started falling over Westbridge City. Not a storm, not dramatic, just a quiet, steady rain that blurred the streets and softened the noise of the world. My car broke down that day. That never happens to people like me. At least that's what I used to believe. I remember stepping out slowly, my heels sinking slightly into the wet pavement, irritation rising in my chest. My phone had almost no signal. My driver was an hour away, and for the first time in years, I had nowhere to go and no one around me who knew my name. That's when she appeared. She didn't rush, she didn't stare, she didn't look impressed. She simply walked toward me, holding a slightly worn black umbrella, and without asking anything more than necessary, she lifted it gently over my head. "Are you okay?" she asked. Her voice was calm, not cautious, not admiring, just human. I hesitated for a moment, almost confused by the simplicity of it. "My car won't start," I said. She nodded, like that was a perfectly normal problem. "Come inside," she replied. "You'll catch a cold standing out here." No curiosity about who I was, no second glance at the diamond necklace resting against my collarbone, a piece worth more than most homes on that street. That should have bothered me, but instead, it stayed with me. That was Emma. The school smelled faintly of chalk and old wood. Children's drawings were taped across the walls, crooked houses, uneven trees, bright suns with smiling faces. There was something imperfect about everything, and yet it felt strangely complete. Emma handed me a cup of tea. The cup was chipped slightly at the edge. I noticed it. She noticed me noticing it. "You can refuse it if it scares you," she said lightly, a small smile forming. I surprised myself by laughing. "I think I'll survive," I replied. The tea was warm, simple, real, no presentation, no perfection, no expectation, just tea. "You're not from around here," she said after a moment. "No," I admitted. She didn't ask more, and somehow that silence said more than any conversation I'd had in years. I went back the next week, then again, and again. At first, I told myself it was curiosity, something different, something new. But slowly, I realized it wasn't that. It was peace. With Emma, there was no performance, no pressure to maintain an image, no expectations tied to my last name, my wealth, or the way people looked at me when I entered a room. We walked through street markets where the air smelled of spices and grilled food. I ate things I couldn't pronounce, sitting on wooden benches that felt unstable beneath me. I laughed more than I had in years, real laughter, not the polite kind. One evening, as we sat on the steps outside her house, watching people pass by under dim streetlights, she said something that stayed with me. "You smile differently here." I turned toward her. "What do you mean?" She shrugged slightly, like you're not trying to prove anything. I didn't answer, because for the first time, I didn't know how. Emma lived with her mother. Their home was small, 2 rooms, a narrow kitchen, faded curtains that had clearly been washed too many times. But there was warmth in every corner, not the kind you could buy, but the kind that builds slowly, quietly over years. Her mother would often sit near the window, knitting or reading, occasionally smiling at us as we talked. "You've made her laugh more," she once told me softly. I wasn't sure what she meant, but I carried those words with me. It took me weeks to invite Emma into my world. November 3rd, 2018. I remember the date because it was the day everything changed. She stood at the entrance of my house, her posture slightly stiff, her eyes moving carefully across the tall gates, the marble floors, the chandeliers hanging above us like frozen light. "It's beautiful," she said, but her voice held something else: distance. "This isn't a home," she added quietly after a moment. That should have offended me. Instead, it unsettled me. Dinner that night was formal, too formal. My family spoke politely, but their eyes were observant, measuring, calculating. Emma answered gently, respectfully, but I could feel her discomfort growing with every passing minute. And then it happened. I reached up absent-mindedly, as I had done 1,000 times before, and felt nothing. The necklace. Gone. My breath. Caught. The room shifted almost instantly. Conversation stopped. Eyes sharpened. The atmosphere turned heavy. "Check the servants," my uncle said immediately. "They were all in the kitchen," someone replied. Silence followed. Then a voice, quieter but sharper. "She's the only one who doesn't belong here." I don't remember who said it, but I remember what I did. Nothing. And sometimes silence is louder than any accusation. Emma stood still. She didn't shout. She didn't panic. "I didn't take it," she said, her voice steady, but softer than before. I looked at her, really looked, and for 1 second, just one, I hesitated. What if that thought, small, quick, almost invisible, crossed my mind, and she saw it? I don't know how, but she did. Something in her expression changed. Not anger, not fear, just hurt, the kind that settles deep. Without another word, she turned and walked toward the door. No one stopped. Her, not even me. I found the necklace 2 days later. It had slipped behind my dressing table, just fallen, like everything I thought I understood. I didn't sleep that night, or the next. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her face, not when she left, but that moment before, when she looked at me and realized I had doubted her. There's a kind of silence that comes after betrayal. Even if it's quiet, even if it's brief, it echoes. Emma didn't return my calls, she didn't respond to my messages, and for the first time in my life, I had no way to fix something with money, influence, or power. So I went to her house. It was raining again. Of course it was. I stood outside for a long time before knocking, not because I didn't know what to say, but because I knew whatever I said wouldn't be enough. When she opened the door, she didn't look surprised, just tired. "I found it," I said, holding the necklace in my hand. She looked at it briefly, then looked away. "I know," she replied quietly. "That hurt more than anger would have." "Do you know what the worst part was?" she asked after a long silence. I shook my head. "Not that they thought I could steal," she said. "People like me, we get used to being judged." Her voice didn't rise. It didn't break. "That wasn't new," she paused. "It was you." The words landed heavier than anything I had ever heard. "You didn't say it," she continued, "but you thought it. I couldn't deny it, so I didn't try." "I was afraid," I said finally. She nodded slowly. "Fear shows who we really trust." Neither of us spoke after that, because there was nothing left to explain. I took the necklace off. For the first time, it felt heavy, not because of its value, but because of what it had cost me. "I don't want this anymore," I said quietly. Emma looked at it again, longer, this time. Then she shook her head. "It was never the problem," she said. And she was right. It never was. She didn't forgive me that day. And honestly, she shouldn't have. But she didn't close the door either. And sometimes that's where healing begins. The weeks that followed were quiet, careful. I didn't visit as often. When I did, I stayed shorter. We spoke less, but when we did, it felt more honest than before. Trust doesn't come back the same way it leaves, it rebuilds differently. Stronger in some places, more fragile in others. I started noticing things I hadn't before. The way Emma's mother watched me, not with judgment but with understanding. The way Emma still hesitated, just slightly, before fully relaxing around me. The way I listened more instead of speaking. Months passed, winter faded into spring, and one evening, as we sat in the same place we had months ago, on the steps outside her house, Emma said something I didn't expect. "You're different now." I looked at her. "How?" "You don't look like you're trying to be perfect anymore." I smiled faintly. "Maybe I got tired." She shook her head. "No, maybe you finally stopped pretending." I never wore the necklace again, not to events, not to dinners, not even once. I kept it locked away, not because I hated it, but because I finally understood it. A diamond shines under light, but trust reveals itself in the dark. If you've ever been in a moment where fear made you doubt someone you cared about, tell me honestly, did you fix it or did you lose them? Because not everyone stays, and not every bond survives silence. Sometimes the most valuable thing in your life is the one you almost let go, and sometimes the rarest diamond you'll ever have isn't something you wear. It's someone who chose to stay, even after you gave them a reason to walk away.